You ready, Johnny?
Teeth on the tongue, tip of the lips.
Yeah. All right, I'm good.
Okay, good.
Roll the intro, Bartholomew! What's our seat number? Hello, and welcome to What's Our Seat Number, the one show that will ask the really tough questions that no one else can bear to ask. Questions like, is it necessary for me to drink my own urine? No, but it's sterile and I like the taste. I'm Simon Gross, a 3D artist, game designer, Olympic chair faller offerer, and occasional shoehorn licker, and with me as always my co-host, who requires no introduction. Johnny Gross, of course, a filmmaker, and the inescapable result of mixing 2 parts charisma, 1 part snark, a dash of saucy wordplay, and a pinch of buttock.
Thank you.
What did you do last night, Johnny? Good night?
Well...
Haven't seen you in a while. It's been a week.
Yeah. I just wanted to tell you that I'm very happy that we're back doing this again after a couple of weeks.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's been a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
You weren't well.
I wasn't well.
And then your wife wasn't well.
Yeah.
And then my son wasn't well.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't well.
Right.
So now everyone's well again?
I think so.
Can we start podcasting, please?
We may begin.
Okay, so I'd like to begin today's episode by telling you that we're going to do some very special things. It's not going to be like a usual episode because we haven't got a movie that we're going to sort of do a pre-bit for and then sort of, go watch it and then come back, right? So what we did, you want to say what we did? You tell the person what we did.
Well,
that old that he doesn't remember what he did last night.
Well, you see, this is a very interesting episode. We're going to be talking about a movie that's been so hotly anticipated that our expectations were through the roof, and that has never backfired before.
Right.
No time to die.
You're all right. You're getting sick again. Don't do this.
Yeah. Well, basically, the movie that we're talking about is the latest in a disturbingly increasing number of nostalgia-capitalizing, soft-rebooted sequel reimaginings that may or may not go out of style in the near future from sheer overexposure. And I think the best thing to do is just to stop going to see them. Stop funding Hollywood's increasing unoriginality, capitalizing on our generation's desperate need to recapture our childhoods and experience even an iota of what it felt like to be young again in our current society of pandemics, social discourse, and fucking masks. So I think that's the only course of action.
You should be a writer, but you still haven't answered my question about what you did last night.
Yeah, last night we went to see Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yes, we bloody did. Okay, now, before we begin today, okay, because what we do, right, we do a little cold open, little pre-bit for you. It's just a little tickle the nipples a little, right?
Oh dear.
But I just wanted to say, if you haven't seen the movie, go see it. Don't listen to the podcast. Turn it off. Pause. Go see the film, come back, and then listen. It's really a shame if we were to spoil these things for you.
Yeah, here be spoilers. And
spoilers
I think
we ye where.
Indeed.
Okay, so today we're going to start the episode by playing the Mystery Envelope game.
Oh my goodness.
Today we're going to play a game where there is a little mystery envelope right here on the table with the question mark hastily scribbled onto the front and not centered in the envelope at all. You would never know that I wasn't a 2D artist. Now, inside of said envelope is a prize of some sort. How do I get my grubby mitts on this finger-licking piece of delicious-looking paper, you ask? Well, you must run the gamut of questions that I have laid out in this Ghostbusters quiz. In order to win the prize, you must answer 145 out of 200 questions correctly. Let's begin. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I'm very excited.
Okay. Now I'm hoping that over that...
You've never done a game for me before.
I haven't. So today it's my turn. Now I'm wearing a suit and tie because I'm dressed as a strange quiz master.
You're more like a game show host.
Exactly. That's who I am today. Now the first question is an easy one. This is one that you're going to get. It's just to sort of slip you into it. This is the lubricant, as it were. In the beginning of the film Ghostbusters, Peter is conducting his experiment. Who does Peter keep shocking? The male subject or the female subject?
I'm going to have to go with 50-50 on this one. I have absolutely no idea. The answer is the male subject.
And a bonus question, what was the card that he actually answered correctly?
It was the 3 wavy lines, and he says, couple of wavy lines. Sorry, this isn't your lucky day.
Wonderful. Question 2. Say the next line. As a friend, I have to tell you, you've finally gone round the bend on this ghost business. You guys have been running your ass off meeting and greeting every schizo in the 5 boroughs who says he has a paranormal experience. What have you seen?
Oh, fuck. This is when they're walking into the library,
This
right?
is when they're walking into the library.
What have you seen? Oh, who says the next line?
The
Is it
next
Ray?
line is Raymond Stantz.
Right. And he says, something about a migration.
Yeah. I'll give you half a point if that's all you can give me.
No, I'm thinking. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this. This is going to be...
Yes, well, the listeners and I will wait while I eat a pastry and you think about it.
Oh, fuck. I'm going to shoot myself after this. Normally people kick themselves, but I'm intense, so I'm going to shoot myself.
I want people to know that you don't answer questions too.
It's something about...
Do you know how much flack I got for the Mel Gibson one?
Really? By whom?
Who do you think? Philippa. I mean, so much shit about it. Yeah. I knew it was Mel Gibson. It's easy from the comfort of your own pajamas.
Yeah. Armchair, yeah.
That is actually fantastic. This is not apple, as we feared. I think this is actually cinnamon.
What was the migration? Fuck. Okay,
Do you want
just
me
tell
to give you the line?
Yeah, just give it to me.
Of course you forget, Peter. I was present at an undersea unexplained mass sponge migration.
Sponges! Damn it, I knew it was something like that.
In Ghostbusters, don't worry. You still have 142 questions. No, I'm joking. There's only 10.
Only got 75 more to go.
I wanted to do that, but I forgot what he says. Of course. Now, question 3. In Ghostbusters, the boys use what useful catalogue to answer their ghostly questions?
Oh, the architect's name was Ivo Shandor. I read about him in Tobin's Spirit Guide.
Absolutely correct. It is the Tobin Spirit Guide. At Lewis Tully's party, question 4.
Mm-hmm.
At Lewis Tully's party, 2 guests arrive and he introduces them to everyone. What are their names?
Oh no, that is some next level shit.
That is a hard one. No, you wait till the last question. That's the one that's going to cook your noodle.
Oh, fuck. Bake your noodle. What's really going to bake your noodle later on is... Would you still have broken
We're not quizzing me, and we're not quizzing me on the Matrix. You sit there and you look embarrassed.
My face is going red.
You feeling hot?
I'm feeling hot. And slightly aroused. So...
By the way, today's chewing is not sponsored by pre-masticators.
Ooh. Yes,
I'm
because there's
chewing
nobody
the
else
food today,
here.
yeah.
I mean, you have to bring somebody in to chew your food for
Exactly.
you. Indeed. It's
Wonderful product.
Carol and something like that, right? No.
But to be fair, if I didn't have it down in front of me, I would also be blanking on this.
Yeah, this is like...
Tell you?
That's obscure.
Ted and Annette.
Oh, fuck. Because actually it does ring a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, name the amount of mortgages currently taken on by Ray as of Ghostbusters.
Fuck.
Now, hang on a minute. There is a line that Venkman says to him that gives you a clue.
I know, they're walking out of the bank.
My parents left me that house.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Ray. Was that not helpful?
No. Not in the slightest. Don't worry, Ray.
I'm pretty sure everybody at home got it.
Of course they did. These are really obscure. This is like...
Yeah.
I would have had to have watched it again yesterday in order to get it.
I know.
But I didn't. I watched Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Listen, Johnny.
Yeah.
To be fair to you,
Yeah.
if it weren't these questions, it would be the really easy ones.
Right. Where'd you get these from? You make them up?
Some of them.
Okay. Some of them. 1 or 2.
No, half of them. I worked hard on this.
Oh, Jesus.
I think you'll get the next one, though. You want me to tell you this one?
Okay, yeah.
3.
3 mortgages, what are they?
He says, my parents left me that house.
Right.
So they've taken out another mortgage using his house as collateral for the firehouse. And Venkman says to him, don't worry, Ray, everybody has 3 mortgages nowadays.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, no, I wouldn't have remembered that.
At the beginning of Ghostbusters, there is graffiti written on Venkman's door. What does it say?
Venkman burn in hell.
Number 7. What floor of the hotel is Slimer found on?
12?
Mm-hmm. And
There's
bonus,
a cockroach.
name the hotel
Name the hotel. Is it the Plaza?
Mm-mm.
The Ritz?
No.
Manhattan?
No.
Floggen?
No. I'll tell you what, it begins with an S.
Savoy?
And
Seville.
it ends with a K. And in the middle, there are some letters.
Swank.
It rhymes with Plejnik.
The Swesnik.
The Sedgwick Hotel.
Sedgwick. Again, yeah.
8. Name Egon's hobby.
If these were James Bond questions, I would get all.
No, I think also that and I've figured this out, right, from watching this.
Right.
I knew from watching you do this. Mm-hmm. If you have the questions in front of you, it's very easy to be smug and superior, right?
Yeah,
whereas if you don't and you're sitting in the hot seat, things you know suddenly become incredibly difficult to know.
No, but
I know
you
know it's the
tons of
Sedgwick.
clues.
You know it's the Sedgwick.
No, I don't know it's
Hotel.
the Sedgwick.
You do.
No, I don't.
You must.
No, I don't.
I know it is. This is one that I know.
Well then.
Okay. 20 points to me
Egon's
then.
hobby is collecting spores, molds, and fungus.
Indeed it is. Number 9. In Ghostbusters 2, what book did Venkman go to pick up from Ray's store?
Magical Paths to
Yes.
Riches, something like that. To Fortune and
Yes. One more word.
To Fortune and
Begins with a P.
Magical Paths to Fortune and P.
What is Venkman looking for? Fortune and
Pleasure.
Well,
Piss.
power.
Power. Oh fuck. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you that one
Okay,
because that was
Magical Paths to Fortune and Power.
Number
Okay.
10. When Dana goes to the Ghostbusters for help in the first movie, and you're never getting this in a million years, Ray and Egon sit on a sofa and start eating. What is in the box? What is on the box? What's written on the box?
No way.
Cheese it.
Okay.
Okay, now listen. I'll give you the. It was.
These were
it was
obscure.
some
Okay,
very
when I
obscure
do
ones.
crazy casting with K's, I'm giving you all the clues in the world.
That's true, but I'm stupid and you're not. That's the difference between us, right? You know this stuff.
I'm not sure that I do. Like, I've seen Ghostbusters many, many times, but like, but these are things of like, you know, what's written on the box and stuff like
Yeah.
that. You know,
Well, listen.
like
Credit to you.
I could
it's
give
really
you
hard.
I could give you like Bond car number plates.
Yeah.
But like,
I'll tell you what. The hardest thing about doing these, and I think this is where you get the points here, is choosing questions that you know are on the level of the person. I'm not very good at that. I just assume that you know everything in Ghostbusters.
okay,
Right? So, now that we've thoroughly embarrassed both of ourselves,
Right.
I'm going to give you the envelope anyway. Would you like to tell me what's written on the inside of the envelope?
Willy Wonka golden ticket. 1 free box of eggs.
No, that's eggs.
As in
Spelt A-A-A-I-I-R-R-R dash G G. And I think another G and then an S. Is it 2 G's or 3?
it's 3 G's.
It's 3 G's. Very good.
Does that mean that you're going to buy me a box of eggs?
Today's episode is sponsored by eggs, the new revolutionary product that is exploding onto the market. Tired of cracking eggs to find the shells are full of stuffs? Buy eggs! Eggshells with quality air inside them. Just heat up the pan, grease it with butter, and then throw it through the closed window because you can't cook air. Purchase 1 box of air eggs today and receive a free box of egg shorts for the man who wants to keep his eggs snug. Or woman. It's a testicle metaphor. Sign up for yours today. Over to you, Jonathan. I'm done.
That's it.
That's all I got.
Okay. So, thank you for that, Simon. Very good. I wanted to read this out because I saw this on Facebook just minutes before we started recording.
Minutes.
This is in one of the podcast groups that we're on Facebook. And this fellow, I'm not sure if I should say his name or not. I probably shouldn't, but it's a funny name anyway.
Can you make something rhyme with it?
I'll just say the name. It's Thunder Negro. Interesting. I don't think that's his real name, do you?
I sincerely hope not.
Me too. So he writes, I'm looking for
Actually, I've changed my mind. I sincerely hope so.
Yes, me too. What? I'm looking for some funny podcasts to feature in my website. on my website, Thunder, on. Here are some things that I don't like and probably won't feature. Podcasts with 5-minute intros explaining why this episode is late, and a list of all the other places you can be followed. Well, that counts us out from
Absolutely,
the very
it
get-go. Basically, I like shows that get right to it. Long intros are a sign it's going to be boring.
Sorry, TN, I disagree.
Podcasts that are completely improvised with no script or jokes, I don't enjoy listening to a couple of friends laughing at their own reactions to pop culture. Ideally, we want podcasts that have pre-written jokes and skits, comedians who know what they're doing and what they want to say. This sounds like a letter to points of view, to be honest, doesn't it?
Sounds like a letter directed at us.
I think so. Podcasts with a lot of conversation interruptions. Classic. I hate listen to multiple people interrupt each other every time they think of something. My favourite podcasts are usually just one or two people who are chill and get a point across. No podcasts hosted on websites that require login to listen. This includes Spotify. Well, we're shit out of luck there.
Does it keep going?
There's more. I don't want to bother my website visitors with having to leave the website to sign up or anything like that. Bandcamp is most preferred. SoundCloud and YouTube are also acceptable. All those requirements may sound too specific and very rare to find, but I only want the best on my website, not trying to bore my audience. Cool, thanks. Drop page.
He just very dramatically ripped it up with one hand. Crumpled, didn't rip.
That perhaps bolsters my self-confidence because he just basically described us.
He did. I mean, the spelling in that. I mean, TN. Listen.
Come on.
Glass houses and whatnot.
Right.
Throwing stones from... Don't.
It's time for movie news. Movie news.
Oh, that was nice.
Yeah. Charlie Cox has been named by Kevin Feige as the official Daredevil of the MCU after appearing in the Netflix series that lasted 2 seasons.
3.
3? 3 seasons. I'm terribly sorry. I'm glad I did my research. And he
That's
also,
what we have me here for.
Right, indeed. How do you feel about that? That sort of crossing over. Do you think Jessica Jones and okay, sorry, I couldn't say that with a straight face. Luke Cage. Do you think those fellows should appear in the MCU?
Listen, I mean, Jessica Jones, sure. I think the great thing is that they can pick and choose. But Charlie Cox was a fantastic Daredevil.
Right.
And I think that recasting him would be very difficult at the moment.
Right.
Also because they have the Marvel logo at the beginning of every single episode of Daredevil on Netflix. So, I don't know, like, recasting is going to be a little difficult, but I think he's fantastic and there's no reason to recast him.
I think the reason is probably because the Netflix deal has lapsed.
Yeah.
I believe they've taken them off Netflix now.
Yeah, all of them have been... I don't know if
moved
they've
to
been...
Disney Plus?
I don't know if they've been removed from Netflix, but they've all been cancelled.
Right, they've all been cancelled. There is that, yeah.
You know, I think I was most upset about Daredevil than any of the others.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy Jessica Jones. I don't think that Jessica Jones needs a movie.
No.
I don't think that...
But do you think that she should appear in somebody else's movie?
I mean, I think there's always room for it. I think it's great to... Because they made a few points to sort of point out that these characters do exist within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know,
right.
Ben Urich in the first season of Daredevil has, articles that he's won prizes for about the Battle of New York. So it all does take place in the same universe.
Right.
So it would be a shame for them not to appear or to recast them completely. I think the answer is either you don't recast them and you don't have them appear in the movies, or you bring them back. Like, I don't think recasting them is very clever. Okay. More movie news.
Yes, I'm going to move away from the MCU now, because when I was doing my research for this episode, it looked to me like every single piece of news was superhero movie related. Talking about Morbius, talking about like all of the like Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah,
there's tons of news about Spider-Man No Way Home. All this like sort of guessing and whatnot, and it's coming out soon. So
I'm avoiding
hold your horses. I'm also not that excited about it because it's kind of, they've gone into the multiverse and it's anything's possible. Anybody could turn up, and it's just like okay,
I mean, I'm interested to see it because I'm interested in the multiverse, and obviously I
like
think that
Spider-Man.
I think they're capitalizing on the whole, into the Spider-Verse.
I think I'm a lot more excited for
Spider-Verse 2.
Multiverse of Madness, I was going to say, but because Sam Raimi and
I'm interested in that as well, but they have to introduce it in some way.
Yeah.
And you know that there was a trailer for Spider-Verse 2.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
I'm excited for that. I really enjoyed the first one. Great animation.
Yeah. Okay, little nugget here. Tom Holland will play Fred Astaire in an upcoming biopic. Of
course he will.
He's a good dancer.
He is a good dancer,
It could possibly work.
He's playing everyone, including everybody's favourite video game characters. Please don't piss all over it.
Well, he might be playing James Bond in a couple of years, you never know. The Is Die Hard a Christmas movie debate rages on consistently and pointlessly.
Still.
Yeah, man walking down the street had this to say: "I don't give a rat's anus." Martha De Laurentiis died. The producer of Hannibal, Red Dragon, Breakdown, and U571. She was married to Dino De Laurentiis, Uber producer extraordinaire. She was 67. R.I.P. She did some really great stuff.
Moment of silence.
Crack on. All right. Okay. Another slightly serious bit. I read that Alec Baldwin did an interview.
Yeah.
With 60 Minutes, I believe.
I saw some of it.
Yeah. So there was an armorer. I don't recall his name, but there was a veteran armorer who saw the promo of that 60-minute interview where he says, "I didn't pull the trigger." And he kind of lashed out and said, well, guns don't go off by themselves. When you watch the entire interview in context, you understand exactly what was going on in the church, was that they were setting up the shot, and he was moving his arm and saying, can you see this? Can you see this? And she was telling him exactly how and where to angle the gun, because she's the cinematographer, and they were doing blocking, they were rehearsing. And the script required him to pull back the hammer, to cock the gun. And this same armorer said that, that particular pistol is very, very sensitive, and just pulling back the hammer could set it off. So that, to me, it doesn't necessarily absolve him of responsibility, but I do not believe that all of these people on social media who are lashing out and condemning and all the laugh emojis, etc., I think that's unwarranted and in very, very poor taste.
Well, I mean, I do want to, move on to, the meat and potatoes of this podcast. But I don't mind if this episode is a little longer. Just so I want to say something about this. Yeah. And cancel culture, come get me. But. Right. What responsibility exactly is he supposed to be absolved of? Like, I mean, honestly, the accidents happen, and this sort of shit. Even if he had pulled the trigger because he was testing a prop gun, does that make it his fault exactly? I mean, I think it's more the fault of the problem of the person who's who's loading the prop guns.
So the armorer was not on the set because she was outside the church for corona reasons, apparently. But people have been saying, people who know absolutely nothing about how a set works, people have been saying that he should have checked the gun before he started using it.
But however, he's not a gun expert. How would he know?
Right. There's a hierarchy on a set. There's an armorer, there's an AD. There are people who are supposed to check the gun to make sure.
There are unions. I'm sure that it's against union rules for an actor to check the pistol.
I'm fairly certain.
I'm just curious about all of the outrage and anger towards Alec Baldwin. Right. Just like, what is everybody expecting from him? The guy feels terrible. You can see in his interviews and in everything that he said about this that it's the worst moment of his entire life, and I'm sure it is. And I don't think that we should be expecting anything from him other than, okay, tell us what happened, and to take him at his word for it, because he's not. You can't send someone to jail for that sort of thing. And why is it that everybody, the moment that anyone sneezes online or something happens in the world, everybody has to get their fucking pitchforks and torches out? It drives me crazy.
So that's what I wanted to talk about, just briefly there. That that he's being hunted down and condemned for this thing. But it's only because he's Alec Baldwin. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, there are stunts that go wrong all the time. Yeah. Stunt people are faceless to the outside world. Nobody really bats an eyelid when a stuntman dies. But the person that rigged up the wire that snapped is just as liable as Alec Baldwin.
Absolutely.
But accidents happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it's anyone's fault except for possibly the armorer who didn't do her job properly and who wasn't experienced enough and was only 24 years old at the time. Is only 24 years old. So I just wanted to voice an opinion.
Thank you for bringing that up. I think that's actual movie news for once.
Yeah, there we go. Movie news. Okay, took a little bit of a turn for the serious, but
I'm very glad that happened.
I think it was nice.
Yeah.
I think it was nice. Okay, I made a list just before we went to see Ghostbusters Afterlife of things that I did not want to see in Ghostbusters Afterlife. The list is as follows. Nanobots.
Okay.
Actors being released from contracts by dying.
Good.
Okay. Long lost children. Either they were planned or they don't exist.
You know, we have a couch here. If you want, we can do like a therapy session about No Time to Die if you want.
One moment. Melissa McCarthy and Clan.
Good.
Spectral blowjobs. I don't think it worked the first time. It didn't need to come back.
Good.
Bloodless gun barrel. Recycling of On Her Majesty's Secret Service score and theme song. Rubbish villain with no real purpose.
You've just watched it again, haven't you?
No, I have not.
No?
No.
I thought you said you were going to, because it's on streaming.
It's on streaming, but I was... No, I'm not watching it again. I'm waiting for the Blu-ray, and then I will watch it again, and then we'll dig up all of these, like reopen these old wounds.
What do you mean old wounds? They're obviously still gaping, gashing maws. You know, God's sake. Continue.
Okay, I wanted to
Would
talk
you
to
say that didn't happen then in the film? As far as I recall, Melissa McCarthy and Clan were nowhere to be seen.
Yes, and there were no nanobots, so I'm
there
very
were no
happy about
blowjobs.
that. Yeah, there were no blowjobs. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about fan service.
Okay.
Because this movie is drenched in it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it is successful, and some of it less so.
Yeah.
I wanted to just like say a couple of things about this. So I don't really have an issue with fan service as long as it's done well, as we said. I think that Force Awakens is a great example of fan service done well.
Okay.
A lot of people complain about the rehashing of the plot of the first movie, but I think that the Ghostbusters Afterlife does something very similar with rehashing the plot. But the main thing is to do something differently. It's like it's like a Bond movie, that each Bond movie kind of follows the same pattern if it's done properly.
I don't feel like it follows the same. I think that the third part has a lot of very similar beats, but I think that the journey of discovery and of family is something that you haven't really seen in the other Ghostbusters movies,
right?
And the other things like the themes of being out in the middle of nowhere. It's no longer in New York, right? It's not like a big city adventure. And I think there's a lot that they've done differently, but yeah, there's a lot of fan service.
Yeah, I'm just saying about Force Awakens is that if you sit there and you really think about it, yes, it follows the same structure of the first movie, but I enjoyed the introduction of the new characters. I enjoyed the integration of the original trilogy characters.
Yeah,
and I thought that it did a great job of updating not only the sort of continuing the story, but also updating the aesthetic while keeping the kind of quote unquote legacy elements.
Yeah.
So my question is this: like, I have two questions I'm asking when I'm going to see a legacy sequel like this. Is the fan service that is implemented organic?
Mm-hmm.
For example, is it something that integrates into the story, like in Ghostbusters Afterlife, where the Geiger meter or whatever is used, or the symmetrical book stacking that's just like in the background kind of thing, or is it, hey, look at this callback, cool, eh? Mm-hmm. Look at that happened in the previous.
I have a thing to talk about on callbacks that fits more neatly into VFX Attic. But.
Okay, so that's one question. The second question is, does it work for casual viewers, or do you have to be so well versed in the previous movies that that you're not going to understand anything because it's all about callbacks? That's the thing that I'm finding with the so-called quote-unquote legacy sequels is that they are too reverential to the originals. Take for example, Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Yeah.
There's way too much of that, and it just basically rehashes the previous movies with younger characters and having the original Bill and Ted kind of kind of along for the ride, really, because the kids kind of take over at some point.
Yeah.
And then you've got William Sadler chucked in there as kind of a hey, Death's got to be in it, so here he is. And I'm more interested when I see these sequels. I'm more interested to see where are the characters now and what are they doing.
Yeah.
And how are we picking them up from the previous movies, and where is their story now going to go?
Something I felt that was really well done.
1 second.
No, sorry. I'm not allowed to talk about the film, apparently. Having opinions.
We're
Johnny's good and ready, we'll give my opinions.
Almost there. For example, I felt that Han Solo's arc was well handled.
Yes.
So I like that. Anyway, so...
oh, no! Take my eyes, not my notes!
You spilled soda on your notes. Very good.
Shit!
Okay.
It's alright, I only...
So what I'm saying is
bit.
that I feel like there needs to be they need to imagine like the original. There's no legacy. There's no nostalgia. There's no history. It's not, people aren't expecting anything. It's just I'm picking up the story where it left off and I'm continuing. So that's what I wanted to see with this movie. Discuss.
Yeah, I can say what I think now.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that for me personally, I don't think there were a couple of moments in the movie where I was less than pleased.
Me too. I have one specific shot that drove me insane.
I'd like to hear what that was. But one moment. So apart from a couple of things that I was less than pleased with, I think that most of the movie I was there just grinning. I was very happy. I didn't feel like the music cues were over the top particularly. I felt that they were used correctly, unlike in the Ghostbusters video game, which I think I already mentioned. But there was a lot of do 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 do, like that piano thing. There was a lot of, it was too much, and in a game it's not really it is controlled, but you can spend as much time as you want in a certain area before you move on, and that music's going to loop and it'll drive you crazy.
Oh,
right.
Alex Kidd.
Yeah. So, I think the one thing that I really enjoyed in this movie was the balance. I felt that there was a great balance between callbacks and between the new things and discovering new things, and it's very, very rooted in the first movie. To me, it felt like they were almost bypassing the second movie. They don't They don't mention Vigo or any of the slime thing that happened in the museum, or if they did, I missed it.
Yeah, they kind of bypassed Ghostbusters 2. You said it to me during the movie, and I was like, no, they didn't do that. And then I realized by the end, they completely bypassed it, except for Razor Cult, which is from very much a Ghostbusters 2.
And also the fact that Dana and Peter are married and together.
Well, I mean, that could have been inferred from completely skipping Ghostbusters 2.
Well, I don't think that they did skip Ghostbusters 2. I just think that they didn't acknowledge it because none of it really ties into the overall story that's going on. Which, I think what you've just said is actually correct. That the Razor Cult thing definitely means that, yes, it's canon.
They didn't do the Halloween thing from 2018 where they completely bypassed the rest of the movies and just continued on from number one.
Right. And so I'm, I was pleased that they didn't do that because that was something I was worried that they were going to do. The opening of the movie is so incredible to me.
I enjoyed it. I'm going to tell you now from the get-go, I really enjoyed the movie. I spent most of the runtime, at least 3/4 of it, really enjoying myself. But I am going to criticize some things.
So am I. I have some things to say.
Okay, good.
But what I wanted to say is that you immediately know that it's Egon, right? And here is where we're jumping straight into spoilers. Right. Straight into spoilers, okay? Harold Ramis, when did he die? 2014?
2014, yeah.
I was worried that they were going to do.
I was quite
Grand
devastated
Moff
when
Tarkin.
he died.
Me too.
I think that he was a fantastic director beyond Ghostbusters, and I thought that he had a lot more to give. And I also remember seeing him in Orange County, and he was just hilarious in that movie. That moment where he gets sort of accidentally drugged. And I think he was a great loss. I really miss Robin Williams, but I had that pang of missing Harold Ramis as well.
Yeah,
he was really good. Anyway, so yeah, go on.
Yeah, so me too, and also because I'm an artist and 3D artist, 2D artist on the side. I'm very most of my Facebook and Instagram feeds are and Twitter are entirely just I follow artists, right. And when a celebrity dies, artists get together and they all do renderings of these. Some of them are the most poignant things you've ever seen. One artist for Robin Williams did him surrounded by his characters, including the genie, and Mrs. Doubtfire, and he put they've got their hands on his shoulders, there was when and when Harold Ramis, is it Ramis or Ramis? I feel
Ramis.
Like Ramis. I always say it wrong. When Harold Ramis died, someone did something that just looked so poignant to me, which was him with his back to us. Quite easy to distinguish his silhouette, which we're going to talk about in a second.
Right.
But, and he's holding Slimer's hand, who's also facing away from us, and they're sort of walking off into the light,
right.
Which I think it made me tear up. I think that artists can be extremely prolific with, the mediums that they use. And I think that the artistry on show in this movie is also not just a tribute to Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters fans, but to Harold Ramis as well.
I think also in terms of in terms of the tech, how far we've come in terms of we'll talk about this a little bit later, but in terms of resurrecting somebody who's been gone, we will talk about this. But there's also
some
couple
techniques
of things
here that are very
I wanted to talk also about the actor who portrayed Egon in the opening sequence, but we'll leave all that for Trivia Corner.
Cool.
Put a pin in it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you immediately know it's Egon, even though he never speaks. We never see his face. His silhouette is very easily distinguishable. What?
Before we saw the movie, because each Ghostbusters movie, including 2016's Answer the Call, opens with a kind of a cold open. Right. And I was wondering how they were going to do that, because all the trailers just show them arriving at the farmhouse and et cetera, et cetera.
And the way that his ghost, he gets, snuffed out. Which, by the way, we talked about this in the one about Answer the Call, how people generally don't get killed by ghosts. You spilled soda on your notes as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So people generally don't die in this series, and it bugged me the way that they just sort of Bill Murray gets kicked out of the window.
Yeah.
And it was very, and for some reason it didn't bug me in the way that it bugged me with Answer the Call. It bugged me in that, oh no, one of the Ghostbusters has been killed, right? I think he was more like scared to death. I think that he was attacked and he had a heart attack, right? He was old. I don't think that the ghost actually killed him. I don't think that the ghost took his life away.
Because he's in the sort of armchair.
Yeah.
In the same way that Dana's in the armchair and the arms come through, etc. So I was wondering if maybe he was going to be taken over by Vince, maybe.
So he's scared to death, and the way his ghost silently whooshes out of the house, there's no music, there's no sound effect apart from the of the sort of orangey red ghost soul thing that you've seen from the first movie. It whooshes past the camera, and it leads to a very somber and quiet opening title that's very different, but very necessary for the weight and gravitas that you need for the emotions to come, the emotions of loss, the emotions of family, of not knowing. Like, it's all very, I feel, very, and his presence is very sort of looming over the whole movie, and I, like you, felt myself feeling the loss quite a bit.
It's also the first time that a Ghostbusters movie, there have been 3 Ghostbusters movies, this is the 4th, that it hasn't opened with the Ray Parker theme song.
Yeah.
So I felt that it was very well done, very well done.
And this is definitely, I feel, how a movie should handle an actor's death. I feel that all the way through the movie, even including the end sequence, which we will get into, this was the correct way to do it, right. I think. What do you think of the young cast?
Okay, so...
Have you crossed out something that I've just said?
Yeah, the opening. We talked about the opening.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Go on.
The young cast. I think McKenna Grace as Phoebe Spengler. And also, very tellingly, she's not referred to the entire way through as Phoebe Spengler. And Egon is referred to the entire way through as Dirt Farmer until they find out that who he is. At the beginning, Paul Rudd is showing Paul Rudd's character Gary. What's his name?
Gruberson.
Yeah.
Gary Gruberson.
Gary.
And I think at some point he says, "I'm Gary."
in
a weird way. He's brilliant.
So he's showing Phoebe and Podcast the video of the Ghostbusters ad. And no, he's not showing them Ghostbusters ad. He's showing them the footage of New York.
Right, yeah. She finds the ad later.
Right. And I was just thinking, how is it that all of this stuff was very high profile and we're living in an age of information and they don't know who Egon was? And then I realized that they don't know that Egon was their grandfather.
Yeah.
That there was no... that they didn't realize they had that connection. And then later on in the movie, she goes, "My grandfather was a Ghostbuster."
Yeah.
So that was very nicely handled, I thought, as well. But I think she was excellent. I think she was first of all the glasses. You see the glasses that they're exactly the same as
because she finds Egon's glasses in his jumpsuit.
Yeah,
and she puts them over hers, and you see they're exactly the same shape.
The hair, the costuming, everything, her sort of
inflection.
Awkwardness. The fact that she's telling these jokes in order to sort of like start conversations, even though she's a science nerd and completely socially awkward. I just thought that she was brilliant. And
I really love her line. It's a very Egon.
Like 13 or 14 when she did this. This movie was delayed quite.
But you know that she was in Haunting of Hill House, and she played Kate Siegel's younger counterpart. And she was amazing in that as well. And I think that
she was also in Handmaid's Tale. And a very adult role in Handmaid's Tale, yeah. She played one of the wives.
Oh, right. I know.
She's like 14 or 15.
Yeah. So she has a line where she says, "Oh, damn it! I had it a second ago. Something calms me. Overstimulation calms me. Right, yeah. And that's a very Egon line.
Yeah,
I felt. And she handles
very
it
subtly
really well.
handled.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like she does things that directly echo things in the previous movies. It's like a little tiny personality.
She's her own sort of character, but you can tell that she's descended from. And it's really really electrifying, like her performance, as well as Logan Kim as well is brilliant as podcast.
Yeah.
He was, I don't know, I was just like giggling a lot at all of his lines.
Yeah.
Finn Wolfhard.
Finn Wolfhard didn't really have so much to do script-wise.
It felt like he and Logan Kim were sort of, if you mix the two of them together, the one-liners and sort of Trevor's womanizing, whatever, it's the missing Venkman piece. It's the snark and
I was going to say this was Trivia Corner, but it's not really trivia. It's not really trivia. It doesn't matter. So the idea behind all that was that obviously Phoebe is supposed to represent Egon.
Yeah.
Podcast is supposed to represent Ray, and you can see that he's wearing the goggles and he's very excited all the time. He says things like Class 5 free roaming vapor, even though he wouldn't know what that is. That I thought of during the when he said that. I was kind of confused about that, but again, that could be
actually
fan
I was thinking about that afterwards.
Yeah.
And the Podcast does know about it. He does know about the Ghostbusters. Phoebe doesn't, and she's like, well, this was 30 years before we were born.
I guess it makes sense.
But it makes sense that he would know these things, and he's looked them up, and he was using the Tobin Spirit Guide at one point. He was reading it on her bed. That's how he found the pictures. That's the Tobin Spirit Guide,
right?
And or at least one of the catalogs that they use.
Right, yeah.
And he's sort of like, he is the Ray.
Right. But I think that So so you've got Phoebe as Egon, Podcast as Ray, and then Finn Wolfhard, who plays Trevor, is supposed to represent Venkman.
Yeah.
He's a wisecracker. He's more into like sort of the chasing girls and all that kind of stuff. And Lucky represents Winston. Her character was very interesting when she was sort of sparring with Trevor.
Yeah.
And then suddenly she becomes a Ghostbuster with very little explanation as to why she would do that.
Yeah.
Like why suddenly she's a Ghostbuster and why.
She was with them down in the pit and
right.
I think it's not like
It was just a little bit
It wasn't completely
rushed.
out of left field for me, but it was rushed, and there were a few things in this movie that I think were a little rushed.
Yeah, me too. But that was what I felt was that the because she's African American, she had to represent the African American Ghostbuster.
I was actually not thinking about those parallels at all. I was entirely when I was watching it, I was like, they are all their own thing.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I was thinking when I was watching it. I read this afterwards, and I thought actually that does track.
It tracks, but it's not. It's
it
not how I
also
read
kind
it
of-
when I was.
It also kind
watching
of belittles it slightly. Anyway, so Podcast. Yeah, I thought he was very cute as well.
Yeah.
He was a very very cute, very funny character, and I enjoyed the chemistry that the two of them had with Paul Rudd's character.
Yeah.
As well. And he's likable as ever, and also ageless.
I was actually really happy that Gary Gruberson was not a Ghostbuster in the end, because I thought maybe he was going to be the adult part of the Ghostbusters, taking over from the old ones. And even though it was kind of spoiled in the trailer, he is the Lewis character getting possessed by Vince.
It was spoiled in the trailer?
Well,
because
there's a
he's
bit of
chased.
him being chased by the...
It didn't register.
Yeah, the terror dog. No, it didn't register for me until I watched the scene in its entirety. But when the dog jumps on the car...
I realized that.
I was like, he's the Lewis. And I was so happy that happened. He is Ant-Man. He's all these, awesome characters. And it's like, here he's taking that more... I don't want to say damsel in distress, but like he's not the hero in the movie.
So if we're here, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit in my notes because I wanted to tell you the shot that made me miserable.
Go on.
Was that everything up until that point was great until Callie, played by Carrie Coon, the mother of Phoebe and Trevor. And Gary are walking towards each other next to the mountain, and she rips off her clothes,
and it turns into
reveals Dana's dress underneath from the first one. I mean, I could even accept the whole there is no Callie, there is no mum, only Zool. I didn't hate that scene.
I didn't hate that scene
when
she's in the chair.
When she's
Very
in the
creepy.
chair. But then when they come out to the mountain and they start like necking and whatever, it started getting a little bit silly for me.
Yeah.
Because Jason Reitman is an excellent director, and he even said I'll put a pin in it. But there's something in Trivia Corner that I wanted to say that he gave in an interview. But he was. You can see where his fingerprints are. He was very much focused on the characters and the sort of the family story, which I thought was great because it's a very slow burn.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great banter. And it's Reitman-esque as well.
Yeah.
Like you think about movies like Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking and et cetera, et cetera. There's a nice air of sort of not overt comedy but banter.
Yeah.
Nice and snarky. And I like that kind of that rhythm between the actors as well. That they pulled it off very, very nicely. It wasn't Juno-esque. It wasn't like Diablo Cody. Kind of over the top. Kind of thing where you're sitting there and you're thinking, oh god, people don't talk like that. It was kind of natural. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
There's some nice
Grizzle.
Yeah, there's a nice 80s vibe.
Definitely,
like the moment, first of all that kind of Summer of Love kind of vibe. The Finn Wolfhard's hair is still long for the period of Stranger Things. But it gave it also like the pastel. Sort of color scheme and the cinematography, it gave it a nice air of that kind of 80s coming of age kind of story. Yeah. And the shot where Trevor goes into the barn and before the lightning cuts out and everything, and you see the logo on Ecto-1 is so Spielberg.
Yeah.
It's very E.T. kind of thing.
You even said to me in the cinema.
Yeah, the music as well. I thought that the score was great. I thought that it used enough of the Elmer Bernstein influences that it needed to, and it was it kind of took on this John Williams kind of.
It was very
kind of feel.
It was also it heightened. There was a lot of creepiness in this movie. Like I felt like it was a lot scarier than because the first Ghostbusters movie has a lot of creepy, sort of scary vibes to it. We said that in the Ghostbusters podcast. But if we've mentioned Carrie Coon, and,
sorry, I just want to say Rob Simonson is the composer that, and a lot of people are praising that score. I think it's really gives something. It all the heart and it gives it the excitement. Great.
But Carrie Coon gives I think a really good performance, but unfortunately not a memorable one. Is one of my gripes.
I enjoyed her. I didn't think that she was the quintessential mom character.
No, but I mean, no, I actually like that. I like that she was a little bit different in her approach. But I feel that she, there's these interesting. There's this thing that I was going. Okay, people are going to be having a go at her for saying to her daughter, "Don't be yourself." Right, but then it's revealed. It's revealed that that's just something they say to each other. She says it later. Phoebe says it back to her later on. Like, don't be yourself, and she goes, ha ha ha. Right, it's like a little. But
that was also the thing, that she is denying who she is the entire way through the movie. That's a theme that runs through. She's she also says to Paul Rudd's character. That they're on a date together, and he's talking about science, and he's talking about the seismic activity and the fact that this this town where anybody barely sneezes, there's it's going off the Richter scale, etc., and she says, I don't want to talk about science. I'm not interested in science. Science turns me off, kind of thing. And that whole thing is because Egon left her. And you realize towards the very end that that he left her for the greater good, but he was thinking about her the entire time.
Yeah, but this is one of the things that bothers me about the movie. Yeah, I feel that she could have shown cracks in that facade a little bit more during her conversations about Egon, because she's very kind of like very closed.
Yeah,
and,
she's like, he's an asshole, etc. But I
her
like the
coming
fact that
around.
He's there, and he's listening.
So as I said, his presence is felt throughout the movie, and he's helping Phoebe all the way through the movie. He's turning on lights and he's playing chess with her, and she says, how do you know all this stuff? And he like shines a light on all of his diplomas, and
I felt that was very like almost like the Pixar lamp, that it gave him the personality.
Life. Yeah, exactly.
The movement of the lamp.
But Carrie Coon's coming around, while expected,
was very quick and
not
rushed.
Earned.
I
feel it on a story level it was earned, but on a character level the performance wasn't quite there. Unlike you, I didn't have any problem with the with her being possessed and the whole "there is no mom, only Zool."
No, I didn't have a problem
creepy.
with her being possessed. I just felt that it's also the way that it was shot and the music, etc., that they're walking towards each other, rehashing the Sigourney Weaver, Rick Moranis scene from the first movie. This movie that has been like sort of tinged with comedy the whole way through, but is primarily a family drama. And by the way, a lot of criticism has been leveled at that first and second act, or the first act before the ghosts start to really make themselves present. That it's boring and it takes a long time to get going.
Fuck off.
And I thought that those were my favorite parts of the movie. Yeah. I enjoyed getting to know those characters. I enjoyed the fact that it was a different kind of movie to the Ghostbusters we've seen before. I thought that that the first and second act were great, and I thought that the sudden descent into silliness was where it kind of jarred for me a little bit.
I only felt that the silliness was in that moment in the mountains, like between the two of them. I didn't feel that the finale wasn't silly. I thought that we'll talk about this with Ghost Design, but the way that they get the proton pack out of the jail cell is really clever, and it's a use, But I wanted to ask you about Ivo Shandor.
So I had something to say about this. There's a scene where they're down in the cave under the mountain, and you see what Egon's set up
Yeah.
with the proton packs and the cross streams,
Neutrino
Wands and the cross streams. You see when each time that entity is trying to break through, you see like everything start to sort of, where the earthquakes are coming from, etc., etc. And Ivo Shandor is in a glass sarcophagus, preserved perfectly. And you see him kind of turn his head and wake up and go,
yeah, very
and it's
creepy.
really creepy. The problem I had with that was that they, Phoebe says, once everything's died down, he was doing this, and whatever, and they have this whole conversation in the cave. They forget that the creepy preserved corpse was moving, and like, what's it doing now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then,
well, I think the point is that he only comes back to life when Gozer comes back, right?
So when Gozer does come back, played by Olivia Wilde, I think that also the fact that she was known kind of took me out of it, but also the fact that Ivo Shandor is played by the great J.K. Simmons, with some really shoddy,
makeup,
goatee work.
Yeah.
I just thought that he looked kind of silly and pantomimey, to be honest. And then he says like a few words and he's ripped in two.
Yeah.
It disappointed me a lot because all of this kind of creepy allusion to Ivo Shandor, I really wished that outside of the game they could have made him the big bad and not Gozer. That maybe there was some kind of way that they could have brought in, like maybe Ivo Shandor
outside of the game. You mean the video game?
Yeah, the video game. Yeah, because Ivo Shandor is prominent in the video game, and you will talk about that. I'm not going to step on.
No,
that.
there's nothing. No, it's fine. Go
on. But I thought that perhaps that maybe Gozer could have been one attempt at trying to bring about the apocalypse, but maybe Ivo Shandor had his finger in many different pies.
Yeah.
And he was an architect, and he built all kinds of different temples and structures all over the US, it seems. And more could have been made of that, but instead what they did was they rehashed the sort of temple sacrifice kind of bit from the '84 film. Which I thought, considering the rest of the movie was so original and so vibrant, that it was a shame. I wish that they had done something slightly different with it.
I do too.
So Ivo Shandor was a disappointment to me because he was barely in it and he could have been.
Yeah, I was going to say that I've had a kind of fascination with Ivo Shandor. I think that the less a character is seen, the scarier or more influential. Like he looms over that first movie,
right,
and definitely over most of this movie.
He's talked about,
and there's very sort of ominous music whenever he's mentioned. He's a very dark and disturbing character, and his obsession with Gozer and I think that some of the lore that they put into this movie of a pit where people sacrifice themselves by jumping in is really, really creepy, and he's created this temple and it's underground, and that's really really creepy. But in the Ghostbusters game, he himself is the big bad, and he takes possession of the mayor to try to become a god himself, right? He's disappointed with the failure with Gozer in the first movie, so he decides to become a god himself.
Right.
And he's in a sort of nether realm, and another realm where he has godlike powers, and the Ghostbusters go in, they fight him, they defeat him. And there's like a great battle, and he's sort of defeated and forced back into his realm. And I think that in this movie, it would have been really cool if all of the different structures that he'd built in the town worked as some kind of conduit to power him as a god, right?
Right.
But listen, I still like the fact that Gozer was there, because it was cool that the Ghostbusters came and sort of
I just think that that perhaps the threat could have been something else.
I really think that he could have been a bigger threat. Definitely. I think that if he would have been in his robes as well, there are like robes that he wears in some of the artwork that you see people have drawn of him in his sort of the whole thing where she rips him in half was a little bit upsetting to me. Felt like they could have combined into one or something.
Right.
Which would have been really cool. But anyway, that's all I got on my notes.
So before we go over to Trivia Corner, I wanted to talk a little bit about the one thing that I wanted to know about when I was reading reviews but didn't, which was how much are the original cast in the movie, and how is it handled? So first of all, let's start with the phone conversation. Phoebe uses her one phone call when she's taken to prison. First of all, that whole sequence with the Ecto-1 and the gunner seat and they're chasing Muncher is brilliant.
Yes.
Okay?
Agreed.
I like the fact that, and Jason Reitman's reasoning of not including Slimer and creating a new character was that Slimer has become kind of a pet.
Yeah.
Since the real Ghostbusters. And Muncher is a lot more of a cantankerous kind of a ghost.
Give me the pen. I'm going to cross out all of what I've written here then. Come on. Fuck you.
No, that's all I got to say.
Oh, okay. Then I'll leave it.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed him and that chase and the fact that they destroy so many things. And that to me is a good callback because it echoes the scene in the
hotel,
in the Sedgwick hotel.
Sedgwick.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice
shooting, Tex. So and then they get penalized for it. And they get sent to the county lockup, and I like that very much. And I also like the fact that she uses her one phone call to call Razor Cult, and now we know, by the way, that phone number from the advert is the phone at Razor Cult.
Yeah.
So there's a really heartfelt scene where an entire, maybe a page or two of script could have been exposition, and the way that Aykroyd plays it is just so pitch perfect. And it's like, and I'm thinking to myself, where the fuck have you been? I want you back on my screen. Like, why is Dan Aykroyd taking such a leave of absence? He was really, really good. I thought that he was the right amount of emotional. It made me tear up slightly. Just the way that he talks about, Egon Spengler can burn in hell, etc., because he tells the story of how Egon made off with all of their equipment and the car and everything and basically sunk their business and cleaned them out.
Yeah.
And didn't say what he was doing or why. And he tells the stories of the other Ghostbusters and where they are now, etc., etc. It's a really great little sequence, which ends off with Phoebe saying, "My grandfather was Egon Spengler," and I love that.
It's so well done. When she says he died last week, and he goes, "Oh man, no kidding." Oh, no.
Yeah, like really,
right? Like he's just said all these things, and then he's like, that hits me. It's really.
You know what I felt actually that this is just occurring to me now that the three of them have all slipped into their characters so effortlessly that you watch Die Hard 5, Live Free, not Live Free or Die Hard, A Good Day to Die Hard. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you're maybe watching a different character. You're not watching the John McClane that you know. And it's very rare that that you watch one of these quote unquote legacy sequels, and the character is a sort of a natural continuation. You know what a lot of people felt about Luke, that it doesn't matter what happened to him in between. You don't feel like it's Luke until he sees Chewie.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Chewie, what are you doing here?" And it's like, okay, well, that's the Luke I know.
Yeah, and then he immediately goes back to being
who you don't know
who he is.
And I felt like Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and
I hated that movie so much.
I felt that Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Ernie Hudson just effortlessly slipped into their roles, and you can imagine that these are the same characters that you were watching 30 years ago.
What's really funny is that if you, I was a little bit disappointed with Bill Murray's performance in the video game because he sounds like he's sort of sleepwalking through it, like he doesn't sound like himself.
He
didn't want to do it, and
Trivia corner.
He also didn't. it's harder to be a voice actor than it is, when you're an actor with the costume on and you're on set and it's a little. But he was Venkman, like he was like
he was really
he
Venkman,
was not Bill Murray. He'd slipped into it, and it was really. I mean, Ray, I feel in the video game was 100% Ray,
right?
And so was. Egon and Harold Ramis was actually still alive for that when they made the video game, so he was able to do it.
In contrast to that feeling that I had of where the fuck is Daniel Craig's Bond that I've seen for 4 movies?
Yeah.
I felt that specifically Dan Aykroyd, who gave the performance that moved me the most out of the 3 of them, and Ernie Hudson close behind. And I think that Venkman is the wisecracker. He didn't really have a chance to emote so much, but I felt that Dan Aykroyd had that kind of that wistfulness, that energy, that excitement, that that sort of aw shucks charm that Ray has. I just thought it was very well written as well as performed. So what disappointed me about it was that they turned up in the finale. I felt like they should have turned up somewhere towards the end of the second act.
Yeah.
There's a reveal where you see them sort of walk up in the cornfields and go, "Did you miss us?" And I felt that wasn't necessary. We knew that they were coming. Everybody knew that they were coming. And that you've got that kind of punch the air reveal that Giles turns up. Was it in season 5 or something?
It's season 6.
Season 6,
and
that he's
Willow's
been absent
gone
for
dark.
a while. Right, Willow's gone dark. He's been absent for a while.
She says nobody can stop me, and then she gets hit by green.
We're talking about Buffy,
energy.
by the way.
Yeah, she gets hit by green energy. It's one of my favorite moments in the whole show. And he goes, "I'd like to test that theory."
Okay,
brilliant.
So that was because you didn't know it was going to happen and you weren't expecting it.
Because they said that he wasn't coming back.
Right.
That was the thing.
So the 3 Ghostbusters just sort of turn up, and we know that they're going to turn up. So there's no surprise factor there. And I just felt that after that phone call, he should have gotten them together. He should have gotten them together, and they should have come, because I wanted to see more of them.
Yeah.
The whole thing, that what I was looking for was, I wanted to see a continuation of the story while introducing new characters, and they spent 3/4 of the movie introducing those characters in such a wonderful way, that I felt that there was room to
bring the old
ones in now. You know. So the thing is that they're all in the dark in the cornfield. The entire finale takes place in the dark as well, and I just thought that there should have been more of them.
I think that the thing that was missing for me was Ray and podcast sort of bonding and over the study, right? Like studying, like having the 2 of them, like if they would have all shown up after Carrie Coon disappears, like after she's been possessed and she runs away out the window, if that's where they would have shown up, like a little bit after that, or a little bit before, and they would have all come back to the farmhouse and found her like that, and Venkman could have made cracks about I'd been here before or whatever, the usual shit that they like to throw out. Oh, I don't remember this job being so hard, I'm old. But like and then they would have gone down to Egon's lab, and they all would have. Now we have the new generation, the old generation working together to solve this mystery. That would have been really cool. Right. But they probably only had them for a little bit of time. Like,
right. I'm sure that's the reason. But I'm talking.
Oh no.
Talking about the you spilled your soda again. Talking about the final movie, that's what I would have wanted.
It might not be the final movie. Do you think that maybe they're going to do
not the final version of this movie?
Final. Oh, I
like
see.
When you get past all of the making of stories and stuff like that, this is the result that we have. And I wanted to see more of them. And there's another thing I wanted to talk about, the post-credit sequence in regards to that there are 2 post-credit sequences. By the way, I just want to say that the staff of Yes Planet were very very accommodating when we were sitting there right until the end credits, right until after the end credits to see the post-credit scene. I thought that the scenes should have been switched. The scene with Dana and Peter was a joke and fan service and great.
Should have been at the end.
Should have been at the end after the credits. It should have been an Easter egg. Okay, the scene with Winston should not have been a post-credit sequence. It should have.
It should have been the end of the movie.
It should have been the end of the movie, and then because it's character, it's very important, and it sets up the possible next movie. And you saw the logo at the beginning, Ghost Corp.
Yeah.
Which was at the beginning of Answer the Call as well. So obviously Sony are trying to revive the franchise in a very serious way. So it's very possible they will be making another movie based on the success of this one. And I thought that you go down into the basement of the firehouse and you see that blinking light on the containment unit.
Yeah.
That's when the Ghostbusters song should have come in.
Yeah.
It would have
Absolutely.
ended the movie perfectly. It should not have been a post-credit sequence. That is my.
But
my
you understand
critique.
that they had to do that because it says, for Harold, and then you've got to give. I don't know, like it.
I don't know. I think it says for Harold, and then it could have faded out.
Could have faded into him,
and there she is, and he's
Janine.
talking to Janine, right? The flashback kind of thing, and then she's sitting in the in Winston's office.
You're right.
And then he takes the Ecto one back to the firehouse and etc.
But it's a really beautiful scene, like that.
It's a really beautiful scene, and it should have been a little bit more front and center. It shouldn't have been pushed to the not just a post a mid-credit scene. It's a post-credit scene. You have to sit there for the entire credits in order to get to it, and I thought that was a mistake.
So before you move on to Trivia Corner, I just wanted to ask you: let's say that they make a sequel. Yeah. Would you like to see the original Ghostbusters having a more front and center,
yes,
like with the new cast together?
Absolutely, because they've proven in that tiny little bit at the end that
they can
work.
still do it.
It can work, and they can still do it, and they're not just there because because of fan service.
They have to get on it before one of them croaks because they're old.
Right. I think that
looking at you, Bill Murray.
I think they all inhabited their roles very, very nicely, and I want to see more of them, and I want to see them working in tandem with the kids. I thought the kids were wonderful. Yeah,
I really wanted to see Bill Murray and like the kids.
So
swap barbs.
Yeah,
I thought that could have been great.
And the other thing that I want to see in the next movie, first of all, I just want to make it clear, I'm getting tired of these quote-unquote legacy sequels.
Yeah.
And I'm getting tired of nostalgia. Not getting tired of nostalgia. If I want nostalgia,
you'll watch the movies.
I'll watch the movies, yeah? I mean, I just it's not about, oh, look at that. You remember that from the first one? Yeah, I remember that from the first one because I can just chuck the Blu-ray and... The Blu-ray?
The Blu-ray.
I can just chuck the Blu-ray and watch it. Marriage. I can just chuck the Blu-ray in and watch it, So I want to see new things. I want to see things like A Quiet Place, Knives Out, and Last Night in Soho. I want to see, Whiplash. I want to see these really great movies that are not based on an IP, that surprise me, that excite me, and I'm the most nostalgia-driven person ever, and I love these movies.
Me too, but I think
they need to keep pumping them out.
There's a thing here in Afterlife that is a very intricate understanding of what makes these movies work and what won't work now, and
Afterlife contains both of them,
and it contains both of them,
yeah.
and I think that just like I think we mentioned this in the last podcast as well, or two podcasts ago, with remakes of video games that came out like in 2009,
right?
Remaking something like KOTOR or remaking Demon Souls, right? Giving it an entirely new coat of paint for today's visuals. It's something you can do because if the game mechanics still work, if they still, if it's still a good game, then a new generation should enjoy it. You cannot do that with an old movie. You cannot sort of remake it with new actors and new visuals and new everything. So you have to do these quote unquote legacy movies. Should we just call them legacy movies, as that's what everyone's calling them? It's exhausting to me to do quote unquote every time. But oh god, it's so exhausting. Bartholomew, please play with my with my hands here. Anyway, what was that? Sorry, slow down.
Yeah.
But like there's something about a remake or a legacy movie where it's like you have to understand the source material and understand what does work and what doesn't work and bring it together. And I think this movie did it really, really well.
Yeah, because I think the right person got the job, and I also think that having his dad sort of breathing down his neck the entire way through was a very good decision. I don't know. I missed, as I said, I missed seeing the sort of continuation of their story.
Yeah.
And I missed Oscar. I wanna say I
was
wanted
hoping
to
I was
Oscar.
going to see some kind of grown-up version of Oscar.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I'm going to go over to Trivia Corner because there is an Oscar-centric moment in Trivia Corner.
Before we do...
Yes, we're going to hear from our sponsor.
What's Our Seat Number is sponsored by Nice Bag. Are you or any of your family members afraid of getting hit by an ice bag? If you are, you may wish to purchase a squeezy bottle of Nice Bag, an anti-iceberg solution. Modern-day scientists agree that the chances of getting hit by an iceberg from the comfort of your own living room are about the same as seeing a spider. However, with Nice Bag, an anti-iceberg solution you can use underwater. Just spray the Nice Bag solution on the offending submerged glacial fragment and watch as you turn its frown upside down. Nice Bag, just because you aren't in the water doesn't mean it can't get you while you're asleep.
Thank you for that.
Rubbish.
Trivia Corner.
I'm just going to get into Calvin Dyson mode. Go on.
Oh, so you're going to go,
Oh, good.
Okay, so the one thing that I really enjoyed from the Ecto 1 sequence, the chase, was the gunner seat.
Yeah.
Apparently the gunner seat was actually used in the real Ghostbusters. Yet never used in either of the original films. Here's something that I read before we saw the movie, but I didn't notice it. I think it's in the end credits. Yes, it is. Ernie Hudson is credited as Dr. Winston Zedmore, indicating that in the time between Ghostbusters 2 and this film, Winston may have earned a PhD, which was hinted at in-game dialogue of Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember that, but I would take your word for it.
Okay, so this is the interview that Jason Reitman gave to MTV in 2007. He says, when asked what he would do if he had the chance to take on a Ghostbusters film himself, he said, it would be the most boring Ghostbusters movie of all time. There would be no ghostbusting. Ghostbusters is iconic, and I don't think I can touch that. My Ghostbusters film would be just guys talking about ghosts, really. You hear about that ghost? Spooky stuff. And the other guy would be like, yeah, I don't have plans to touch Ghostbusters. So
Lies.
It's interesting because it's true though. He wanted to make a drama, and with like comedic elements, and I think that really worked. And I think that the finale maybe shows that he's never done that kind of thing before because it is quite rushed and there is a sort of a rehash of the first movie. So yeah, I mean, I thought that he did a fantastic job, and I think that maybe they could have kept it as low key as it was. Without escalating it to that point. But anyway. Okay, we talked about this. Each one of the main child actors emulates one of the original Ghostbusters.
Drop the page.
Okay. So Egon Spengler was brought back for the movie despite his performer Harold Ramis passing away in 2014. The Egon scene in quick and obscured glimpses during the opening scene was played by actor Bob Gunton. Do you know who that is?
No.
So he was the police chief in Demolition Man. What do you think you're scratching, caveman?
Right. Okay.
And he was also the warden in Shawshank Redemption.
Right.
Nothing particularly interesting about that. Just I didn't know if it was a stuntman or what, but it is actually an actor that I've heard of.
Wasn't some of it also one of the Reitmans?
I don't know.
I read online that some of those body double shots are it's either Ivan or Jason.
Maybe.
I think it's Ivan.
Might be. Okay, so you're going to talk about the visual effects.
Yes, don't touch it.
Yeah, I'm not going to touch it. But special permission was obtained from Ramis' children to create the effect at the end, where he appears as basically a Force ghost. Yeah. They commented that the finished scene was so satisfying. They could have done him as this jolly Santa type, but that wouldn't have been true to the character. He was in great shape, nice and trim. My dad would have loved that. Yeah. Because Harold Ramis was a bit heavy towards the end of his life.
Yes, he was.
I've been reading about this quite a lot, the reviews and people discussing it online, that people thought that maybe it was in poor taste. Having watched it, I thought that, first of all, it was beautifully rendered.
Yeah.
And it didn't look like CGI at all. There was maybe one shot.
One.
It's a lip curl, right? There you go.
It's the thing where his eyebrow moves up his... Okay, well...
Yeah. No. It's okay. You're going to touch on this again. Put a pin in it.
Put a pin in it, Johnny.
Yeah. So I thought that it was really sensitively handled, and he doesn't speak. He doesn't say anything, and I think that having that sort of seal of approval from his children is way more successful than any of the sort of Star Wars reanimated actors.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I appreciated that a lot, and I even teared up a little bit.
So did I.
Yep.
I got all the feels from this movie. Seriously.
Yeah. There's a little bit more here that's a little bit more to do with the pre-production of the movie. In the early 1990s, following the release of Ghostbusters 2, Dan Aykroyd wrote a script for a third film, tentatively titled Ghostbusters 3 Hellbent. The concept had the characters transported to an alternate universe version of Manhattan called Manhattan, where the people and places are hellish versions of Earth, with the Ghostbusters meeting and confronting the devil. At the time, Aykroyd stated that the studio was interested, though the principal actors, especially Bill Murray, were not. It featured a younger group of Ghostbusters, while Ray Egon Winston struggled to keep the business going upon Peter's relationship becoming serious with Dana. Part of this concept was used in the video game.
It was. That's the alternate dimension that they fight Shandor in.
Which Aykroyd would go on to claim was essentially the third movie. At one point, the new Ghostbusters team was rumored to be played by Chris Farley, Chris Rock, and Ben Stiller. Honestly, I kind of would have liked to have seen that, if only to see Egon actually... in a movie, alive again. So basically, what I'm hearing here, there's more to this stuff, because there are so many different iterations of proposed and lost Ghostbusters movies that never got made. But the main wrench in the works was Bill Murray, and that's kind of sad. Yeah. But the fact that he read this script and thought it was brilliant is a testament to how good the script by Jason Reitman and Gil Keenan really is.
Yeah.
But they had a concept by the writers of The Office, which apparently was very good. Dan Aykroyd has been battling to make a movie like this for years.
In the end, he made the game, and that was considered to be the canonical Ghostbusters 3.
Right. Indeed.
Even though you don't get to play as any of the actual Ghostbusters.
Yep. Okay.
Which I suppose is fine.
So that is me and Trivia Corner.
Shall we up the stairs?
Yeah. I wanted to see what happened to my...
Toyota.
Okay. There is a tagline game here, but it's not really very good. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so let's go and visit VFX Attic.
Join me in the VFX attic. Where else can you see VFX in an attic other than VFX Attic?
That was fairly anticlimactic.
Going backwards.
Okay, so I assume that this banister has been painted so as not to give me tetanus or something.
No.
So what's with the paint?
You're gonna die. It's not paint, it's acid. Don't touch it. Right.
Oh, Jesus.
So, about Egon. Egon, so I think it was really important that he didn't speak at any point. I think that when we do see Egon as a ghost, that's where I started tearing up. I felt the lump in my throat as soon as his hand is supporting her... Neutrino Wand. And I think that part of the illusion that was broken for me with Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One is anytime he moves his face.
Right.
Because the human face, and this is one of the most difficult things about trying to render out a CG human who is based off of a real person that you have actual footage for, so i.e. not Thanos, who is a stylized human, however realistic. And we'll talk about Thanos in a second, but Grand Moff Tarkin and a lot of other recreations of characters, and we're looking at Carrie Fisher's young counterpart at the end of Rogue One. It's not very good. Why? Because as simple as people might think it is, your face has so many moving parts, and we're not just talking about muscles and pores and things like that, but pore stretching, okay? Your pores stretch as your skin stretches over your muscles. Your skin stretches. Your mouth is able to move in ways that you can spot the AIOU shapes, but they make so many more shapes. When you're talking, that having a CG double try to move their lips is often quite difficult to do in a realistic way.
Top lip is always very
top lip, yeah,
very telling.
Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of them move the top lip, and our bottom jaw opens and shuts, like a puppet. It's like so. I think that the effect was great. The reason that Thanos works so much is because he's stylized, and his pores do stretch, and he does have skin stretching over muscles, and that's what's so impressive about it. What was done here, and because it's still early days and the information is very sort of scarce about how this was done, so obviously it was a body double and a CG head replacement. I'm not sure if any advanced deepfake tech was used for this. But I think that some of it was. I know that they used a lot of archival footage of him to sort of recreate his facial expressions.
But not only that, they had to age him as well.
They had to age him, and they had to age him as Egon would age, not as Harold Ramis aged.
So you've got the high hair,
exactly,
and it's
so well done, and the CG and the compositing is so well done. I had trouble seeing the seams. I saw it in a couple of shots, mainly the eyebrow raise. Also, he does like this when Phoebe looks up at him when she realizes that he's supporting her Neutrino Wand and helping with battling Gozer. He kind of looks at her and gives her a little, half smile, eyebrows raised. Again, certain wrinklings of the skin, but it helps that he's see-through and he's a ghost, and therefore, the effect is kind of blurred a little bit.
I was not taken out of the movie for a second. I said, like, how did they manage to get footage of him looking like that, doing that stuff? Like, I was really convinced. I was
convinced as well. I mean, we knew it was CG.
That they resurrected Harold Ramis and shot him in the movie.
I wouldn't go that far, but
no, I was
convinced. One of the most convincing recreations of a dead actor that I've ever seen, and I think that the key to it was that he doesn't speak.
Of course,
it's only facial expressions, and they're so good. And he sees his daughter, and she hugs him.
When she hugs him, like I was like, don't blub, don't blub.
I blubbed. I had to wipe away a tear.
No, that was gorgeous. And him like turning into stars.
Stardust, and he goes into the afterlife. Hence, Ghostbusters Afterlife. So good,
amazing, very well done.
Now let's talk ghost design for a second. Mm-hmm. Now that's what I'm talking about. Okay, it's got the same visual style that they brought old ghosts in. They brought new ones to the table. They look right at home in the Ghostbusters universe, but they are updated. Okay, Muncher is CG. Muncher being reminiscent of Slimer, but with his own unique tone, movement style. He's got extra legs. He's kind of...
I like the fact that he's threatening as well, because he eats the metal and he shoots it out of his mouth.
Yeah, and I really love how when he's flying towards the car, the Ecto-1, and, Finn just has this open mouth scream when he sees he's shooting bullets at him. He's like, ah! It's brilliant. But he's got his own, like, style and he's also instrumental in the end. He's not just a mascot. He's not just a pet, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
There was a ghost.
He's used against his will.
Yeah.
And I thought that it was very clever the way that they used him.
Yeah. And the ghost in the diner that was animatronic, which was a really
I really appreciated
touch.
that they did some practical ghosts, like the Gozer as well. Gozer, not Gozer.
The Pterodogs. We'll talk about that in a second. But the range of movement is lessened in animatronics than in CG. But sometimes I feel that because you have so much range of movement, things can look a little floaty in CG. So, like the fact that you're talking about zombies and dead people and ghosts, the fact that some of them are animatronic, it's rooted in the world because you get the real world lighting on them. Right. If it's supposed to be wet, then they can just spray it with water and make it look wet. And it's you can get these really beautiful reflections. And listen, with CG, you have to match it in compositing, and we'll talk about compositing in a little bit in another section here that I've got here.
But also, like the practical effects, like the Pterodogs, for example, and the skeleton in the diner. I like that jerky movement. Yeah. If they're going for nostalgia,
that's the way to do it.
Like you're bringing back, like, if they would have done some Ray Harryhausen style.
Who's Ray Harryhausen, Johnny?
Who's Ray Harryhausen? Sorry. If they were going to do some Harryhausen style stop motion.
Go on.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it brings back warm fuzzies. Yeah.
Well, the Hellhounds, this is the Terror Dogs, is what
Yeah.
I wanted to say, is that they're a beautiful mix of CG and animatronics, and I'm going to touch on this in a second, but you can really see how range of movement and facial articulation has come forward since the 80s in animatronics, and you know what I was thinking last night? What a time to be alive, right? Seriously, when two of these disciplines come together, and we've talked about this in previous podcast episodes about animatronics and CG and how, the CG is sometimes overdone and it's brought together. It's so done. It's so well done. It hit me right in the nostalgicals, which is nostalgia testicles. The thing that didn't work for me in the movie, VFX-wise, was the Stay Puffs. VFX and story-wise.
I didn't feel like they were necessary.
They weren't. I can't tell if it was the annoying kids behind us or just how cartoony and disconnected it was from the rest of the film. This was a miss for me. It was wonderful in concept as perhaps maybe a Ghostbusters internet short with, Paul Rudd going to get, some ice cream, whatever. But it hardly serves any purpose in the film other than gratuitous fan service, as kind of as a foil for Trevor later on, where the Stay Puffs are futzing with his equipment.
Yeah.
But again, it could have been a demon dog flanking them from behind because there's two of them and they didn't see it coming, and it sort of slashes at his
clever girls,
his proton pack, Yeah. So that was a bit of a miss for me, but it's not like I would take it out of the movie or anything.
I would.
The proton streams, the streams and tech are all back as we remember them. It's just used in different ways, in clever ways. They managed to maintain the visual feel of the proton streams while updating it using today's technology. And it kind of gave it a nostalgic and modern feel at the same time. And this is what Answer the Call should have done. I love that we also got to see more of the inner workings of the proton packs as well, seeing it opened up and how it turns on. You see it up, lots of satisfying button presses and switch flicking. It was brilliant. Now, I have a little surprise for you for today's episode with VFX Attic. I have a friend who studied with me in college who worked on this movie. In the VFX. Her name is Michal Bental. Mm-hmm. And I haven't spoken to her for about 10 years, almost 9 years, since we ended school.
Hold on, she's Israeli?
She's Israeli,
and
she's moved to Canada.
A lot of the... Okay. No, because we were watching the end crawl, and 90% of them... Indian.
Her name was in there.
It was outsourced.
It's under the 2D artists. Uh-huh. She was a compositor.
Mm-hmm.
And
what did she composite?
Wait.
Okay.
I did an interview with her, which I couldn't record because 2 different time zones and our schedules weren't synced up. So I sent her questions and she sent me written answers in English.
Oh my God.
And I'm going to read the questions and the answers now. And I thought it was really interesting. It's not very long. I didn't want to take up too much of her time, but she was a really great sport about it, and she was really, she didn't say to me, "Oh, you haven't spoken to me all these years, now you're asking me for help." She was like, "Yeah, I'd love to talk about it." So this is my interview with Michal Bental.
Brilliant.
Question 1. Can you tell me a bit about your career in the last 9 years and what path led you to this movie and compositing in general? Michal says, for the first part of my career, I was doing 3D generalist work, although I've always wanted to do compositing ever since I watched the VFX breakdown of MPC Studios for the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I couldn't really find any opportunity in the Israeli industry since it was mostly TV commercials and TV series for kids, but I found some courses with 2 amazing Israeli compositors who worked abroad, and I kept on learning by myself. At some point, my husband, who is an animator, fun fact, he taught me animation in one of my later courses in Blender. Really talented guy. Bit of a stud muffin too, if I may say so. He got an offer to work at MPC in Montreal, so it was kind of an easy entry for me, Michal. And with some sweat and tears, I managed to build up a good reputation, got to work on some big gigs. It's a big hub here in Canada, but still acts like a small community where everyone knows everyone. People tend to move between different companies, and there's always the game of do you know so-and-so. Question 2. I've explained on the podcast what compositing is, but in your own words, better than mine, what is the purpose of it in the VFX process? It's literally what it means to put things together in a composition. As a compositor, you get all the materials from upstream, from the on-set footage to CG environments, creatures, and VFX, and your job is to make a believable image out of it all. As a compositor, you have a very important and also stressful position, as you're the last stop in the pipeline before it goes back to the client. So you really have to make things look perfect. No one else will fix it for you. Question 3. Could you describe what compositing you worked on in Ghostbusters Afterlife? Are there specific shots you're allowed to talk about? She had to ask permission to talk about this, so I'm really glad that she... She can't say a lot here, there's not a lot, but I was lucky to get some cute Stay Puft shots, also some Terror Dog and Gozer shots. Overall, the mindset was to create a look that mimics the old movies, including even the way the Terror Dog moves, which was super cool. So meaning she had to study... Well, I mean, obviously the animators did, the studying of how they move, but, how it all looks once it's put together and the animatronics. I'm really impressed with how that looked in the end. She says, I love how it gave respect to the old movies. There were obviously some things we knew and had to keep secret until the movie came out. Number 4, can you describe working on a big production and what the workflow looks like? How is communication handled? In a general, every studio, the vendor, right, who won the bid for the movie, gets a chunk of sequences to work on, and then the supervisors and leads are given the shots, and they give them to the artists on the team. So usually you get to work on 5 to 12 shots in a movie. The way we see the movie in advance is pretty odd. It's never in the right order, and we don't really know how it's all going to merge together eventually. In a big production, there's hundreds of people that work hard to make it happen. If you're curious, you could always stay for the credits part of a movie and get your mind blown. A fun fact, on the first or second Ghostbusters movie, I don't think she remembers which, it was ILM work. A small part of the artists won their name in the credits, and unfortunately, the rest got their names just written as, and 200 more artists.
I think that would have been Ghostbusters 2 because it
was a bigger team.
It was a bigger team, and the original studio that worked on the original Ghostbusters were not asked back again because Ivan Reitman wasn't happy with the work they did.
It was ILM on the second movie, and the fact that we've come to a point where you stay for the end credits and you can see just hundreds of people working. They write all their names.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I saw huge amounts of Indian names that. I'm interested to dig a little deeper into that, to see if there were outsourcing to different studios in India, or if that was just one studio in India and there was just a huge amount of people in it. The amount of artists on this movie was astounding.
Yeah,
and it doesn't look like there were a huge amount of effect shots, to be honest, because a lot of the movie is
talking.
No, yeah, a lot of the movie is like family drama. So the amount of I think that was probably the right way to go. That the amount of effect shots that actually did end up in the movie were quality because of the
amount of people working on them.
Yeah, and the amount of because there wasn't as much as, say, an Avengers movie, for example.
I also think it's very interesting that she talks about the vendor who won the bid for the movie. That the studios are vying for.
On a smaller scale, it reminds me of when I have to submit a quote. And compete with different studios or different filmmakers to get a job or something. Yeah.
Question 5: can you speak about any challenges that were specific to this movie versus other movies you've worked on? She says, obviously in every movie you have different challenges, as it all eventually comes down to the director's vision that you need to get as a VFX studio. Some directors like Denis Villeneuve really put their attention on the more minimalistic, seamless look, and others really like lens flares all over the place.
Has she worked with Dennis or JJ?
I think so.
She's
really good.
Did she work on Dune?
I don't know. I can ask her.
Or Arrival? Maybe?
I know that she's worked on a lot of movies in the end. Like she's
wow.
She's really she says it helps a lot to do research before you start to work on a movie, even though you're only an artist. Which when I saw that, I was like, only an artist. Like, you're really
Maybe
important
she's talking
here.
about in the grand scheme of things, because there are so many. But
but on Ghostbusters, we really tried to create some old school looks and effects, but yet with modern quality. The challenge here, I guess, is to not make it look too cheesy. I hope we did a good job, and I think you did a fantastic job. Really good job. Question 6. I'm quite curious about how animatronics and CG were combined to create a connection between the old and the new. I'm assuming compositing the different elements to make these work together was tough. Are you able to tell me about that? She says, for all our work, it was all done in CG, but as I said, the work was to try and mimic the animatronic style of movement. But in general, you can do anything and combine anything. The more it's planned better on set for the post-production process, the smoother it will be on our side. I personally would always prefer more of the work to get done on set rather than make it all in CG, as it looks more believable, but it means less to no flexibility afterwards. So it could be easier sometimes, or it could be a total nightmare, but it really depends on the situation and the production. For the old movies, I would recommend watching the episode on Ghostbusters from the movies that made us on Netflix. They talk a lot about their work there, and it's super interesting, which I agree I've seen. Question 7, and this is my last question. If I had worked on a Ghostbusters movie, one of my favorite 80s movies, I'd have crapped my pants. How did it feel personally to be involved in this? I kind of had the same feeling when I found out that my VFX supervisor on my first ever movie that I worked on was also the VFX supervisor on some of the biggest Harry Potter movies. For Ghostbusters, I'd be honest and say I was never a fan, but working on this movie made me go and watch the old ones, and I really liked them, so it came out nice and they've earned a new fan. But anyway, the most exciting part is to see the final result on the big screen. It's always worth all the blood and tears. Michal, thank you so much. If you listen to this episode, it's really, really cool to me that you gave me the time of day. I'm not sure that I would have been able to take the time and answer the questions as fully as you did. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And that's it for me for VFX Attic.
Very good. Well done. That was really cool. That was really cool. I don't really know that many people. Well, otherwise, I would be like, hey, so I know this bloke from
being
that
the
thing.
Underachiever that I am. I don't do anything, but I know a lot of people who do really cool shit. But yeah, I think it's really cool that she says, and I've said this before about VFX as well, that the more you do practically, the easier it's going to come out. Like looking, the better it'll come out looking in the end. Like it'll be more believable. I was saying, I think in the last episode, or I remember in one of the last couple of episodes, when you have practical elements mixed with your CG, like Superman flying up into the sky and having a gust of wind blow dust away from where he's taken off from. You can do that with dust effects in CG, but it will always look better if you have like a wind blower,
right?
Or a leaf blower. A wind blower? What is that? A leaf blower blowing wind at the ground. I think it's just really cool. Time for another sponsor?
Okay, go for it.
What's Our Seat Number is sponsored by blah blah blah, the object of many a human's desire. Is the wife not talking to you because of nostrils? Are you lonely because your face has fallen off? Well, keep yourself company with blah blah blah, the one product that will keep you company when no one else will. Worries about your terrible disfigurement be gone. Press the button on the side and blah 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 will say random things to you that will make you feel like a real person and not a pile of shit. Things such as, do you want more sawdust to rub on your gums? I have a whole matchbox full. And many, many more real person sayings. Savings, savings, savings with blah blah blah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think we should wrap up this episode because
it's gone
this
on for a
episode.
while. This episode.
I think that's the reason why we should wrap up this episode. Well, this has been going on for a while, but I'm very happy that we've been talking for a couple of hours without
cracking up, losing it,
or moaning for 3 hours like we did with No Time to Die. I'm
when
very
it's
happy.
warranted.
When it's warranted, yeah. No, I'm very happy that we went to see this movie and I didn't come out feeling like shit afterwards.
Yeah, me too.
Because as I said, it's not something that I'm asking for. I don't necessarily want these movies, but if they're going to be done, they should be done well.
Yeah.
And I really got a kick out of the new characters and seeing the old characters come back again, and obviously Egon. I thought it was a really nice sort of family movie, family in terms of the family of filmmakers and the literal family of Ivan Reitman and Jason Reitman who made the movie, and I just thought it was like a love letter to the past as opposed to a cash in. And I really appreciated that. So let's talk about what we're going to do next week. What would you like to do?
I'd like to watch a movie
Yes.
that you don't like, but that I like.
Uh-huh.
And I was thinking, as it's come up a couple of times, Van Helsing.
You're thinking Van Helsing?
Yeah, what do you want to do next week?
Well, we can do Van Helsing. We could also do Wild Wild West because I think the same result will come from that.
The thing is that I actually like Van Helsing, and Wild Wild West I feel guilty about liking.
I see. Okay, so
I'll still try and defend it if I need to.
So Van Helsing next week, and I am putting that movie on trial.
Yes, this is a new thing. Jonathan, would you like to explain, or you'll explain it next week?
Let's explain it next week. Let's give them
give them
sweat.
hooked. Yeah.
Okay,
bit of bait for you there.
Thank you very much for listening. And
Thank you so much.
We have been Johnny and Simon Gross. This has been What's Our Seat Number, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
What's our seat number?